Statistics have shown that little to no premarital education is one of the leading causes of divorce. And this means that knowledge can never be overestimated. So the quality of knowledge that you have about what you're getting into in marriage is also commensurate to the chances of success of same. So studies have shown that asking the right questions can get you on the right foot for marriage. So in today's video, I want to talk about 7 questions you should be asking before you get married. Hi there, I'm Olushola and I share practicable wisdom. If it's your very first time listening to me, I must say that you've been missing out on a whole lot. So welcome. So it's a good time to say that you should kindly click out the subscribe button and also turn on your post notification. I'm waiting, don't procrastinate. All right, thank you so much. So today, I'm talking about 7 questions to ask before getting married. I'd like to begin with number 1, finances. You need to ask questions about your finances. I'm starting off with finances because studies have shown that financial arguments are the most common sources of disagreement in marriage. It simply means that money issues are very serious and they must be addressed. So I don't really know where to begin because of time, but there's a whole lot of things I want to say. Because it's easy to get carried away in the butterfly stages of your relationships that you forget that you are actually going to be 2 individuals under the same roof with expenses that could enter each other. That's a Nigerian way of saying that you can have interwoven expenses because you live together. So you need to be asking some questions, one of which is, who pays for what? Now, I know that many of our societies are largely patriarchal, and then there's usually the male ego tendency to say that I'm going to keep footing the bills of specific things. And then, there's a new age of, feminism and a lot of independence on the part of women, which is good to a very great extent. Independence in the sense that some women feel like they can take on more responsibilities than women in the previous generations have been taking, and that's nice, but you need to discuss it. Who pays for what? Are we going to do 50-50, 100% on everything that we do, or is it going to be a 70-30, or will specific responsibilities be allocated? So for example, for someone like me, and I think the vast majority of my friends, I think we tend to pick up specific responsibilities. Maybe I've got the rent regardless, I've got the school fees, she's got maybe some upkeep funding, she's got vacation, I've got this, you've got that, stuff like that. So are you going to ask these questions? So this is it. Are you guys going to share this based on the roles in marriage as per man and wife, or based on your earning power? Because this is extremely important. Is there going to be a flat rule where you just say, the man, the husband, will cater for this while I cater for that? Or is it going to be dependent on who earns more at a particular point in life? Because whether you like it or not, as life goes on, you get into different phases of your career. One could be unemployed, the other could be employed. So these are the issues. You need to have scenario management. You have to discuss these things well ahead. So who's going to pay for what? Settle it now. Don't wait till the butterflies are no more and you start getting angry at one another, because trust me, it is one of the leading causes of disagreements. So write on a sheet of paper the possible expenses from most important to least important and pretty much share it. And also have scenario management, issues where you say, okay, if I begin to earn more or I begin to earn less at this point, this is what will happen. This helps you. You must prepare and agree ahead. It helps you avoid tension. Another major financial issue that needs to come up has to be the issue of joint accounts. You see, I get the idea of joint accounts, even though it's something that might not necessarily be my go-to from the beginning, but I think I like it. I think it's okay if husband and wife put their resources together for the aim of achieving something, right? Well, that's good. I feel joint accounts are great. But for some couples, it is joint accounts for pretty much everything. I'm not going to advise you on what to do. It's not my style. I like joint accounts for maybe, the goal of maybe you want to buy a house in the future, want to send the kids to a particular kind of school in the future. That's great. We're going to have joint accounts. However, I feel we should be keeping private accounts. But the question is not about how I feel. It's about what you and your spouse feel, because these are issues. Are you going to have joint accounts all through, which will mean that all of your resources will put into the same, pool? So this means that if he is buying a Ferrari, it's going to be from that same account. If you're buying A bone straight hair is going to be from that same account. So the question now will be that what will happen when your ego begins to get tampered, or when you just begin to get angry that she's spending more than she's making, or she's spending all your money? So these issues need to be discussed. If one partner is making 5 times the other partner's money, a joint account means that all your money is the same. Your money is my money 100%. So if I'm spending it, I hope you're not angry. So if you're going to have joint accounts, are there boundaries? What are we going to do? Will there be watchwords, or will you spend with your church mind? How are you going to go about it? These things are issues that can definitely cause arguments. Could it be that the highest earner should be the person spending the highest money, which I think makes the most sense? So you need to talk about it. Another thing I think we didn't talk about when it comes to financials has to be the level of career drive that each and every one of you have. For example, in the African context, and I think even in the Arabian context many times, some men who are well-to-do will prefer their wives to be stay-home wives. Trust me, I have no issues with that. I absolutely do not. Funny how. I think what works for person A might not work for person B. I personally like, a career-driven woman and everything. However, it could work fine for some other people. Who told you that being a stay-home mom, is out of the line of purpose? Are you aware that if all a mother does or a father does is to raise godly, morally upright kids, they've been successful, for example? Do you know that's true? So that's fine. But the question is, you need to discuss it. Who is going to be stay home? Who's going to be going to the office? What's the drive going to look like, right? If the breadwinner loses his or her job, what's going to be left to support? So these things are like scenario management. It helps you in moments of difficulties. So one other thing I think we need to talk about is prenup. So for those of you who do not know prenup is like a simple financial agreement that an intending couple, sign before getting into marriage, right? So a prenup is like an agreement that says, okay, when or if there's a dissolution of marriage, there's ever a dissolution of marriage, you go with all the money you own. I go with all the money that I have, because this seems to be a very serious issue in showbiz at the moment. You see a lot of celebrities and a lot of well-to-do people are scared of getting married because of the fear of divorce later. A good example, I think some of the leading or wealthiest people in the world are currently divorced, and you have a case where the wives have parted with some of the money of the husband. In fact, some cases it's 50-50. There was a statistics that showed that some of the wealthiest women in the world at the moment are divorcees who took part of the money of their husbands. So people want to avoid this, but in my opinion, it's a very delicate conversation to have. For example, I have a friend who was dating a founder who was very wealthy, and then in the midst of the dating relationship, as they began to get more serious, I think he was legally advised to have a prenup, and he had a conversation with her, and then she wasn't really having it because she feels like you are already talking about divorce or the possibility of divorce should marriage come up. Are you getting my point? It's more like a slippery slope, something that we need to pay attention to. So yes, talk about it. It's a very delicate conversation, but it needs to be discussed. For someone like me, for reasons best known to me, I don't think about a prenup. Not at all. Absolutely. But for you, it might be different. Discuss it. All right. The second question I'd like you to ask has to do with fitness. Now, this, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated questions, right? But I think over the past, 30 years, the vast majority of young and even old people have begun to pay more attention to how their bodies look. There's been a rise in the creation of gyms across not just the westernized societies, but also in sub-Saharan Africa and pretty much every other part of the world. A lot of people are now going to gyms, exercising more, paying attention to themselves, because statistics have shown that the more exercises you do, the higher chances you have of living long. And that's beautiful. However, I have found out that some people get into marriages without discussing it. So you have one spouse who is very vibrant at the gym and the other who doesn't give a hoot. So the issue now is, how do we reconcile both? I've had married folks tell me stuff like, his tummy is too big. I keep telling him to watch it, but it takes a lot of beer. I've seen a married man literally talk about how, the wife seems to be growing in size and he doesn't find her appealing anymore. Whether you like it or not, we cannot keep evading these issues. So fitness plays a very important role. Talk talk about it now. What are the demands? If you're a gym brat, it could be better for you to go for another gym brat just like you. Don't get me wrong. I know that sometimes in your life you might not really be as fervent at it with the gym duties as you used to be, but there should be at least a baseline. Okay, we go to the gym 3 times a week. We go 4 times a week. Let's keep our bodies better. Diets. Talk about diets. How's it going to be? We don't want to eat anyhow in the house. Are you marrying somebody who likes to eat anything they see? It's very important. It could be one of the leading causes, of sexual dissatisfaction rather. It could be one of the leading causes of frustration generally, or very silly arguments. I'm going to the gym, you're back, you don't fancy what I fancy. I think it's good to be on the same page with this. So this is very important. I wouldn't want to dwell so much on this, but I hope you get the drift, right? And the third thing I want to talk about is accountability. This borders around the things of submission, not necessarily even submission within the marriage. For Christians, for example, I know that, the Bible talks about submission. Wives submit, husbands love. If you're non-Christian, whatever it is that works for you, whatever construct you think works in your marriage, it's fine by you, right? But this is not what that's talking about, right? This is talking about accountability, general accountability. This is what it means. It means that outside of the both of you, is there anybody that you can have speak with your spouse that your spouse will truly listen to? This is very, very important. You see, over the past 1 year, one of the major issues that I think I've faced or I've had to counsel people about, particularly married folks and majorly women, is that whenever they come to me and say, maybe my husband is doing this, acting up about so, I usually ask questions like, have you tried talking to him about it? They say, oh yes, we have tried talking to him about it. Okay. Nothing changed? No, nothing changed. You've prayed about it? Oh yes, I'm praying. Okay, that's fine. Is there anybody that you can lay claim to that will summon your husband to talk to him and he will listen? And then many of them look, there's only one person, but these days he doesn't care anymore. And then this begs the question, there should be some form of accountability. Do I say external accountability in the relationship? This is not just for the man, but also for the women. Before you get married, I believe it is advisable for you to have mentors. The person doesn't have to be a professional guidance counselor or guidance and counseling person. No, the person could just be, somebody who is wise enough to be able to help you sift through and look through specific issues. So you need to have a sense of accountability, someone you can look to that every one of you honors, somebody that would help you both see possible flaws and areas that you've been, missing out on and help you both do better. This is extremely important. Any marriage without any form of accountability is set for doom. Just like in governance, there has to be checks and balances. It's extremely important. So you have to look at things administratively, on an executive level, and it will help you both, understand what you're doing. And the fourth point is sexual preferences. Oh yeah, I know your bodies are itching. I know you want to get fired up and pretty much everything. But you see, something very interesting has happened over the past couple of years. There were some things I never thought could be problems in marriages that I found out to actually be problems. So I've soon found out that among some maybe newly wedded couples, there seems to be some unidentified issues, pre-marriage that are now forming major problems now. And they have to do with sexual preferences. Now, here's exactly how this pans out. 2 folks are in love. One seems to have maybe a higher sexual drive than the other. And then, they waited till marriage before getting married, before exploring, their sexual preferences. And yes, that's true, and that's how it should be, But the issues that now come up is that maybe they get married and then they find out that the lady hasn't really ever been as interested in sex as the guy has always been. So I think that even though you shouldn't be testing these waters before marriage, there ought to be something you need to discuss, or it ought to be something you need to discuss. Now, the question will be, how can I discuss it? How can I really know? In my opinion, there are actually ways to know to a given extent, right? So first and foremost, as 2 people in a dating relationship, there definitely will be physical attraction. Now, one of the things I want to say is simple. If you're not physically attracted to a person from the get-go, I think it is better you let them know. And then the second aspect to that has to do with the intensity of the affection. For example, I've seen people who have never gotten married before or even thought of having sex, and then they already know that their libidos are low. They already feel like, I don't think I'm so attracted enough to long for a person. Now, trust me, it might not be something that you're faced with or something that your friends are faced, but these are real issues. I've met people or I've seen people who aren't just attracted as much as you think they are, or as much as you are. So what I'm just trying to say is this: ensure that your passions kind of match one another. If not, you're gonna have one super sexually active and ready spouse and another who maybe just by configuration, natural configuration, is not just as, always excited like you are. And trust me, it's not mean that there's anything wrong with them, but just for the sake of your marriage, you just have to try and ensure that you're on the same, sexual wavelength. Very important, right? The second thing I want to talk about when it comes to sexuals is the preferences when it has to do with the extent to which you can go. You know what I mean? I've met some folks who draw the line when it comes to oral sex and think that the mouth should not go to any other thing, right? You know what I'm talking about. I've also seen some people who feel like, what? Oral sex is my thing. Let's go. They put their mouths in pretty much anywhere. Not just in the most obvious places, but also in places that no other person can go to. Ew! Well, this video is rated 18. But it's the truth. We need to talk about these things. Talk about it. I know that, for those who have never, experienced it, it's okay to say, okay, I've not experienced it. I want to leave my options open. Then we can grow together and, tell it. But there are some people who have maybe had, some previous experiences. And for some, they love it so much. For some, they hate it so much. Just to avoid sexual frustration, it will be important for you to be, on a similar wavelength. Which leads me to number 5. Number 5 point is transparency. One of the things that blows my mind the most is when I see questions like, should your spouse be checking your phone, or should your husband or wife have your password? Honestly speaking, I'm always blown away. Why then are we married? Why then are we in a dating relationship? Marriage is the height and the greatest pedestal for transparency. He puts you on that place where, you know everything there is to know about me. For God's sakes. So you need to discuss transparency. It's very important. Will you have my passwords? Will you know how much I earn? This is important because this is one of the leading issues also, because it has a link to financial frustration. I've seen marriages where the husband hides how much he earns, and then the wife in return also hides what she earns. Some women also hide what they earn because they want the man to keep footing the bills. You need to talk about it. There has to be transparency, not just financially, but also with your private lives. In my opinion, only the wicked run it when no man pursues, which simply means that only somebody who has ulterior motives will be putting so many passwords to everything in their, on their phones that their wives cannot know. I put it to you, sir. You are either cheating or you are about to cheat. Auntie, you too. I put it to you. You are either cheating or you are about to cheat. Why does your husband not know what your WhatsApp password is? Who is messaging you? Is it Bartholomew? That guy you met at the gym? Transparency is key. For God's sakes. We swore for better, for worse. We're married. You've got to be transparent. I'm not saying evade each other's private spaces. I'm simply saying that we must be transparent enough to put, a guard on the hearts of the both of us. It's very important. Another thing I think you should be transparent about is you have to be honest about your past. One of the craziest things that, could ever happen to an intending couple is to be dating all along, get married, and then realize that you've been living a lie all along. So maybe he dated one of your close friends and never said so. Or maybe he was previously married, but because he was scared of you turning him down, he never said. So I'm going to advise this. Before you get married, you need to have 1 or 2 or 3 days set aside within the dating relationship where you literally go to one quiet place and say, look, tell me everything I need to know about you. Tell me everything I need to know about you. Now, the person doesn't have to go into all the details of all his, sexual explorations to avoid the temptation for rekindling such a thing. But the person should at least tell you the most important things. And this also includes body counts. Tell your spouse your body count. If it's 1, if it's 2, say it. If you have no idea or you've lost count, also say it. 50 or more. Don't say it's 3. Stop downplaying it. If the thing is, he loves me, he should love me, he should not care about my body count. No, you're being dishonest. Let him know what he's getting into. I know great, honest, and loving men who will not care. I also know women who do not care because they see you as a new person, someone who is changed, so they don't care about it. But it's okay to let them know. Don't deny them the privilege of knowing. Don't just say I was a bad boy. Tell them how far you've been, about how long, what you have done. Don't go into the full details of how you did it, but tell them what it is. Exactly. Very important. And I hope I'm speaking your mind. Yeah? I'm sure the people are like, yes, tell them. I'm also telling you. Tell him all the escapades that you did when you were in school. The 6th point is understand your love languages. I cannot overstate this. It was best-selling author Gary Chapman who wrote a book titled The 5 Love Languages to explain how people can either give or receive love. So according to him, he says that there are 5 love languages, namely acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. Now, these 5 things mean that an average person either has 1, 2, or 3. Some ladies get everything, sha. Now, just in a bit to go over the 5 love languages, let's put it in a very simple way for you to understand. The act of service means that you like it when your spouse or your lover does something for you, maybe runs errands or performs a particular task or does an assignment for you, right? Now, physical touch obviously means that you like it whenever you're touched. It could be hugs, right? Just a hug or just a cuddle here and there, and that's interesting. Now, the 3rd one is words of affirmation. You like it when sweet things are being said about you. You just love it when someone tells you he loves you. There's one thing I've realized with words of affirmation. Some people who like words of affirmation is usually comes from 2 extremes. Maybe you grew up in a family where you always told each other how you felt about one another, so you always like words of affirmation. And sometimes I've also found out that on the other extreme, some people who like words of affirmation or want it are people who maybe never heard it when they were young at all. So they feel like there's something lacking, there's some sense of fixation, and they feel like that should be filled. So there's words of affirmation. Another thing that there is gifts. So you just love it. You love your birthdays when you get gifts. So you want your spouse to always get you gifts. The way you interpret intentionality is when there's gifts given to you. Now, the 5th one is quality time. Now, quality time simply means that you just love it when your lover spends time with you. You don't want money. You don't want words. You don't necessarily want any other thing. You just want the person to spend quality time with you. Now, this means that you will attach significance in a relationship or how much a person loves you to how much time the person spends with you. So now the issue is this. There's a tipping point, and you must get this in context. You need to understand your spouse's love language. Because many times we get so consumed with how we want to be loved and we forget about how others want to be loved. So maybe you're a words of affirmation person and then you just want to hear I love you so much and everything. And then all you do to your spouse is that you just tell the person how much you love her or how much you love him. There's going to be a problem there. You are setting up yourself for a major difficulty because you are simply giving your love language to the person without asking or caring to know what the person's love language might be. So you're going to have a conversation. How would you like to be loved? I want to love you better. For example, if you're dating a lady who just likes quality time. She doesn't care if you get her heaven and earth. If you are not available, she's not going to feel loved. So if you're someone who I'm unavailable, well, your relationship is not available. That's exactly what it is. So you need to understand. So this will help you, understand the levels of intentionality. Now, usually, no one ever really has just one love language. It's that there's obviously one that is the most important, right? And then usually there are statements like men, for example, like physical touch more than any other love language. I don't know how true that is, yeah? Then ladies usually like quality time more than any other thing. I've noticed it. And, well, some ladies could be gifts. They just want to be spoiled on their birthdays. I've also seen ladies who don't even care. That gift, comes at the bottom of pretty much everything. In everything that you do, I'm just saying, understand the love language of your partner. Let them understand your own, but also understand their own. This is extremely crucial. And so just in case you don't know what your love language is, here's a good way to find out. What has anyone in your previous relationship ever done to you that made you feel loved the most? Think about it. Did you feel loved the most when he hugged you? Did you feel loved the most when she bought you a gift? Did you feel loved the most when he spent more time with you? Or when he did something for you? When you knew he had to go out of his way to make it happen? These are pointers to what your love language might be, and it is very crucial that you know it. And this leads me to the final point, which is number 7. what are your thoughts on communal living? This is very important. Now, for those of you who don't understand what I just said, communal living means what are your thoughts on family members coming to come and live with us? This, I repeat, I know this sounds already like a broken record when I say one of the leading causes. These are leading causes. These 7 things are leading causes. What exactly do you think? What's your view about family members coming to live with me? The thing is, you need to understand boundaries, and you must also understand and respect your spouse's boundaries. So you could have a spouse who is so much people-loving, peace-loving, but the person just likes to be peace-loving, amazing to people, but likes his or her space to the point where they don't expect family members coming to live in the house. For example, newlyweds, you have your house alone, you get to explore and do all the yama you do, spend more time with one another, love each other and do so many things. That won't be the best time for you to start having your husband's younger sister living in the same house. Just saying. So for some wives, this could be an invasion of privacy. However, I've also seen some wives who love it. They just want to have people around. For example, I know that for the vast majority of maybe African mothers, they get to a point in their lives, maybe age 40, 50, 60, where they just want to have more family members around. Yes, but I noticed that for some early stages, they maybe did not like that. So you need to understand your spouse well enough. However, I strongly feel like this could be tied to the background of the person you're getting married to. So for example, if you're marrying from a family of 10 kids and your spouse is the first son, for example, of a family of 10 or maybe 8 children. Now, for some of you wondering, but like some of you in westernized societies that have a crude birth rate of maybe 2 children, for example, per mother, you might not be able to relate. Yeah, in Africa, and some other parts of the world, South America and pretty much many other places, we have cases where sometimes, some parents choose to have 8 children. Yes, 1 man, 1 wife. So if you're married from such a family, you need to brace up. Listen and listen well. Stop this unrealistic mentality to think that when you marry a person, you disconnect the person from the person's family. It's a farce. When you marry someone, you are to a given extent marrying the person's family. However, you need to discuss the boundaries of that marrying the person's family with your spouse before you get married. So if you're marrying, for example, someone who is first son of 8 children and is the breadwinner, you will be funny and be unrealistic to think that you will detach him from his family automatically and that his finances are purely for you and him alone. That's wrong. First and foremost, it's a little bit selfish, but then I understand because you do not want him to get too, deep into his family's worries that he forgets about you. But you need to discuss these issues. So in such a scenario, how would you feel if the 3rd and the 4th born of his family come to live with you while they are in university, and if your house is closer to the university, what would you say? You need to discuss it. However, I also want you to understand that some things could be discussed prior, but you might have to be a little bit flexible as time goes on. Just ensure that most importantly, you understand that you are a team. You're not trying to outdo one another. You are a team. And also, the moment you love someone, you love the person's idiosyncrasies, you love the person's weaknesses and strengths, and you also love all that the person cares about. Because that truly is one of the beautiful essence of marriage, that you must love one another through the thick, through the storm, when the going is great, but also when the going is bad. So you need to discuss your boundaries for communal living. All right, that leads me to the end of the 7 points. However, I must say this, when it all comes down to it, as good as it is to have premarital education and as good as it is to understand all of these things, I must say this, sometimes marriage has no manual. This is important. Look, you can know all of these things and ask all of these questions, but as time goes on in the marriage, you find out that sometimes people could change certain aspects of themselves. So one thing I want to say is this: you must never stop learning. You must never stop learning. With humility, you will go farther than you will if you are so set in your ways. So you must always keep learning, almost keep discovering things about your spouse. And the most important thing, one thing I can tell you is this: when you arm yourself with knowledge going into any battle, your chances of prevailing are definitely higher. Thank you so much for listening to this. I just want to say this. Look, this is life-saving. Kindly share this with that friend of yours who is about to make arguably the most important decision the person will ever make, which is to enter into a relationship or a marriage. So please, this is important. So please like this video so other people can see it. Share this video to your friends, and very importantly, kindly subscribe to my channel, please. And also put on your post notification so you'll be the first person to know whenever I drop a video. Thank you so much. It's been such an amazing time bringing this your way. I won't close without saying one thing. That one thing that many of you look forward to. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready, guys? 1, 2, go. Ireo. All right, see you in the next video.